Welcome to the second episode of Believe It or Not. The world is full of pandering actions by councils, governments, companies, and institutions that seek to ensure that no one is offended. This normally takes the form of sanitizing gender, race, trans issues, and so on to such a degree as to become ridiculous, and where right-minded people increasingly hold their heads in their hands.
So, Believe It or Not is the antidote to that. And each week we discuss 6 woke announcements or news events that will make your blood boil. The thing is, though, that some of them are made up. And can you work out which ones are so ridiculous as to not be true, or are the ridiculous ones actually real? So, let's start this week with me challenging Esther again to believe it or not. Ready?
I am ready.
Okay, so we have 6 edicts, 6 announcements that have been in the news or not. 5 of them are going to be true. 1 is not true.
Okay.
So what you have to work out, what Esther will be leading you on here, is which ones are true and which one is not. So let's kick off with the first one. So Lincoln City Football Club.
Okay.
Apologies to any fans, but Lincoln City Football Club has banned their traditional dam busters music and air raid sirens from each match for fear that that doing so, that using the music and the air raid sirens will offend some sections of the community. So just to be clear, Lincoln City Football Club traditionally use the dam busters music to kind of get the crowd revved up before a game. And they also use air raid sirens as a kind of patriotic way of revving the crowd up and the team members, presumably, when there's, for instance, a corner or a throw-in and so on.
Is this like in reference to the Second World War?
It is, yeah. And actually there is a link. So it's not just kind of, blatant Churchillian Spitfire, all good stuff. Let's win the war stuff. There is a connection between Lincoln and an airbase that apparently was the base for Lancaster bombers in the Second World War. So there is a link. However, the powers that be, whoever it is, directors of the football club, Lincoln City Football Club, have decided to stop this practice just in case it offends certain members of the community, particularly apparently because of the war in Ukraine and, again, it being offensive. Now, if this is true, it might not be. If this is true, is it just another pathetic example of those in decision-making situations pandering almost to a vocal minority that doesn't exist?
Not offending.
Preemptively not offending, that's exactly it.
I'm curious because I thought it would be maybe war veterans would have PTSD hearing the song like, and they'd be like, no. I didn't know it was because of...
Well, it's funny, isn't it, that 70 years on from the end of the Second World War, they haven't sought to ban the music or the air raid sirens. So presumably there are people in the crowd, and have been for 70 years, that are Second World War veterans, Gulf veterans, Falklands veterans. But all of a sudden, because of the world we now find ourselves being sucked into by the woke, the directors of Lincoln City Football Club have decided to ban it.
I really hope that one's not true, because I feel like most young people these days don't even know that much about history in general. So I think this would be mom, dad, why are they playing sirens? So that's like a missed opportunity.
Do we think that this is not that far away from banning the Union Jack? We've seen over many years the apparent uproar there is when someone unfurls a cross of St George, the white and red England flag. Well, can you imagine people in Denmark being outraged that the Danish flag had been unfurled over a building or in a crowd? But here we fake offence at the fact that something might be so overtly patriotic and nationalistic to apparently automatically therefore be racist.
I mean, we've definitely gotten to that point. I wouldn't say we're getting there, because there was a recent YouGov study that showed that I think young people under 30, only about a third of them, less than 30%, actually feel proud to be British, which is horrifying to me.
Less than 30% of youngsters feel proud to be British?
Which is horrifying to me.
Well, it really is.
Yeah, but you can see the roots of why that is the case with when you take out a St. George's cross and you're effectively a white nationalist, or if you say something that you're actually proud of British history and stuff about slavery, as if that's the only part of British history.
But what's the next extension? The Queen by definition is racist because her great grandfather was the king at the time of colonialism and so on. The railways were built under the Victorians predominantly from the proceeds of trade that was done with the Commonwealth. So are railways by definition now racist?
Well, I mean, we're getting there. We've started tearing down statues. So
Okay, right, before my blood boils anymore. Okay, next. So the second one is the Wharton Centre NHS Trust. So the English NHS, this particular trust has decreed that they will no longer include male and female on admission forms because, again, they don't want to offend people that have decided, not to take either gender, I guess. And that means now that as a consequence, they will have to ask all patients if they are pregnant, including men. So it might not be true. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
Could you imagine?
So I check in to have my ingrowing toenail done, and
Okay.
before the anaesthetist comes in and sort of wants to make sure that everything's in order, he'll say to me, "Mr. Quirk, can you just confirm that you are not pregnant?"
I'm sorry, that is a fantastic icebreaker. I completely recommend that they keep this. But could you imagine a nurse having a long day at work and some big burly guy comes in and like, "Oh, you're all right." It's like, I'm sorry, I have to ask.
But on the other
Are
hand,
you pregnant?
on the other hand, utterly ridiculous that the NHS have gone so left, so far the other way,
Oh,
so
this has to be
determined
true.
not to offend certain people, whoever these people are, that they have decided, instead of just the obvious, which is you're a woman, you might be pregnant, I'll ask you, you're a 65-year-old bald man, probably not pregnant, but we're going to ask you anyway.
This has to be true. If it's not, can we make it a thing? Can we petition the NHS? They,
Well,
they
let's
blow
see.
a bunch of money on nonsense
Let's
anyway.
see. Let's see.
Might as well.
We'll come back to it. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. The third one, the University of Kent has. This might make the University of Kent the most woke university in Britain, by the way.
Has some competition.
Has issued what safe spaces. Safe spaces everywhere. The University of Kent has issued all female students and all that identify as female, that's obviously important, with high-pitched alarms to hang around their necks, just in case they end up in situations where they become uncomfortable with men.
I thought it was going to say just in case they get groped. And I'm like, if
No, so they could be
trans
walking...
women, trust me, you probably don't have to worry about getting your ass groped.
Yeah, maybe not.
We see you.
So picture this: you're, a first-year student, second-year student, or whatever, walking around campus, or walking back from the bar one night, on the way to a lecture, and if a man gets, unfeasibly close to you in the corridor, or looks at you perhaps in a particularly kind of disheartening way, you can press the button, and it emits a loud, high-pitched sound.
What does it sound like?
And the security, woke. It says woke. And the campus security will come and rescue you.
But it just sounds like a woman nagging. Is that what it's like? Can you imagine?
It's the woke nagging, isn't it? The woke nagging us all to death with all these stupid ideas and edicts.
I really want to hear what the alarm sounds like.
Well, I can't. Well, in fact, maybe we can put that in the edit. We'll see. We'll, if it's true, we'll try and get
I'd love it.
a representation of the alarm.
Okay.
Number 4. Are you ready? What do you think so far, by the way? Confusing you?
I think
it's favourite so far?
On the level of absurd, I think it meets my expectations.
Good. Okay. So number 4, which may or may not be true. West Midlands Police.
Okay.
So let me just preface this actually first. This is the police force that have just advertised for an assistant director of fairness. I shit you not. An assistant director of fairness for £74,000 a year, right? That advert.
We're clearly in the wrong business.
Actually may or may not be out there, but I'm trying to convince you it's true. However, right, new recruits to West Midlands Police, and often these are graduate recruits, by the way. I'm just going to tell you some of the complaints that there have been by not just new recruits, so kind of police officers in their early 20s that have just qualified, but also by their parents, would you believe? Okay. So one complaint is that police cars go too fast and make the occupants, as in the police officers within them, feel sick. So the new trainees, in circumstances where police cars are going to go too fast, would like those police cars in future to slow down on their way to emergencies. Okay, yeah. Second, often parents of these young police officers in their early 20s are rocking up to the police station to pick them up at the end of their shift and have been seen to complain if those officers are late because they've ended up having to do overtime because, hey, their work, their shift got in the way. So parents complaining that their young offspring
Abnormal behavior.
are not there bang on time for their parents to pick them up. And then this last one, West Midlands Police, where one parent apparently telephoned to complain that their daughter, a newly qualified police officer, had gone to a job that they were really horrified by.
Why?
Which, well, that would be being a police officer, right? So guess what? Here's the thing: if you don't want to be horrified or outraged or disappointed with society, don't be a police officer. If you don't like fire, don't be a fireman. If you don't like blood, don't be a paramedic. Anyway, so that's West Midlands Police, who seem to be encouraging this on the basis that the top brass are hiring people in like assistant directors of fairness. That's number 4.
Okay.
What do you think? Ridiculous, or so ridiculous, maybe it's true.
I'm confused. Do these people not read the job spec before they apply?
Clearly not.
And it's their parents complaining as well. First of all, I feel duped. Like, I wish my parents would complain about stuff like this. Mum, I'm traumatized at work. Suck it up. This is
get this. Let's move on to number 5, because number 5 almost kind of is
a segue into more absurdity.
Well, it is, and 4 might be a symptom of 5. Bear with me. Okay. Right, but although this is another American example, maybe true, might not be. Colorado School District has axed the valedictorian prize. So that's the prize for the best in class, so the number 1 student in each class, because they believe it's elitist. Class, and here's a quote, or is it? Here's a quote. Class, rank, and status are outdated, says the Colorado School District. Learning is not a competition.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I can believe it. And it's probably written by a loser.
Sorry, you believe that learning should not be a competition?
No, I believe that
this
is
true.
This has to be true, because this is something I can so expect coming from an American school district.
Yeah. And do we think, though, that if you nurture and sanitize and wrap students in such cotton wool all of their lives, where winning doesn't matter, this all started, of course, with non-competitive sports days, didn't it, back in the 70s and 80s? And then we end up with kids that aren't that bothered about going to interviews, think they can turn up as police officers and not go fast in cars.
And complain about not become. Honestly, this is why American students are falling behind students of other parts of the world. When I was in school in Ghana, where you ranked was everything, because you knew you had to compete. When you knew in the real world, it's not all about, competition doesn't matter, everyone gets a participation trophy. No, you really have to compete for where you are. Yeah. The reason why I believe this is because it's so absurd that it's clearly written by a teacher who didn't really achieve much in their life, and so they're trying to propagate that nonsense, that really trying. It's like, if you can't win at a certain game, you invent a game that's lazier and dumber that you can win at, and then the game is everyone wins.
Is it akin to the old adage that those that do, those that can't teach?
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
Okay, well, let's come back to it and see if it's true.
Okay.
So the last one, number 6 on the list. Little Britain. Do you remember BBC's Little Britain? Are you a fan? You're probably too young.
I never watched it. Yeah, I never watched it.
David Walliams, Matt Lucas, brilliant back in the day.
I know of it, but I never watched it.
Early mid-2000s. Okay. Well, did you know that it was cancelled 2 years ago by the BBC? So for 2 years, it's not been on iPlayer because it's seen as being offensive towards trans, because of the Emily character, the one that dresses up as a woman, David Walliams and Matt Lucas, they both do. Andy in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
It's disableist, apparently.
Ableist.
And there's all sorts of other kind of racial connotations in that programme. And of course, that programme was of its day, right? So it was written at the time, actually, as I think, quite an accurate reflection of Britain, hence it being called Little Britain, and tongue-in-cheek, parody, comedy, right?
Can I just ask, what doesn't offend a trans person these days? Because I've made very rational assertions and have been called a TERF. Now, if you see on my Twitter, my location is now Turfistan, and I'm the shaker. But I'm the queen of Turfistan, and I completely own it. I just don't understand what is not offensive to the trans community now. Or is it people, and I never really hear actually trans people getting offended by this. I hear people on behalf of the trans communities, like when you have like sort of English women or white women or whatever being offended on my behalf of something that I'm not even offended by, and then they speak to me and they realize, oh, you don't care. It's like, yes, I don't care.
But what's interesting is you always speak up on social media to say, hey, I'm not offended.
I'm not offended, by the way.
Yeah.
But what doesn't offend them these days? Because I don't know if you noticed, I had a bunch of angry blokes in wigs descend upon my Twitter DMs.
Do you mean trans women?
For saying that, for noting that a tweet that I made had a lot of outrage from individuals that seemed to look I could be wrong, like angry blokes in wigs. I was just making an observation. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. So to your question, what are they not offended by? I think they go out of their way, or the apologists on their behalf, to try to look at anything as being offensive so that they can they can fake that offence. Anyway,
I think most, to be fair, I do feel sorry for a lot of trans people, because I feel like the ones that are the most vocal are the craziest of them all. I genuinely just think there are a lot of trans people that want to be left alone to live their lives.
Trans anarchists.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or
So anyway, so back to Little Britain and the BBC. So it's now going to be reinstated on iPlayer, but only now that David Walliams and Matt Lucas apparently have cancelled themselves by agreeing that certain episodes will have a load of deleted scenes.
Oh God.
Loads of scenes taken out. So you can now watch Little Britain again on iPlayer as of now, but you won't be able to see anything that is
The funny bits,
edgy, offensive, or a parody on anything that relates to, is it Daffyd, the only gay in the village? I guess that's been taken out. Emily's been taken out. I'm not sure there's much of an episode left, frankly, of Little Britain. There's probably about 3 or 4 minutes left. So anyway, so that's number 6. Okay. So you have to choose, and hopefully people watching this will already have formed an idea or an opinion as to which one of these is the fake one. So shall I recap?
Yeah, recap.
So the first one, Lincoln City Football Club has banned Dam Busters music and air raid sirens
which
from
is sad.
celebrations at its games, Lincoln City. The second one is the Walton Centre NHS Trust, which will no longer ask people if they are male or female, and therefore when it comes to procedures will be asking all and sundry, men included, if they are pregnant.
That has to be true. Please let it be true.
Third, University of Kent has issued all female students with a high-pitched alarm just in case men scare them.
Okay.
Number 4, West Midlands Police, particularly their newly trained and qualified officers, don't want police cars to go too fast because they feel sick, and parents are complaining at overtime and bad jobs that their kids have been sent on. Number 5, Colorado School District have axed the valedictorian prize, so no longer will you be able to designate or celebrate the fact that you've worked really hard and ended up being top of your class. So yes, learning is not a competition, the Colorado School District says. And number 6, BBC's Little Britain was banned and cancelled, but has been allowed back a bit, but with all of the edgy stuff taken out of it so it doesn't offend snowflakes. Which one is the fake?
I really hope the police in the West Midlands Police one is fake, because you know, if you're joining West Midlands Police, you are in for a rough time.
And again,
so I would hope that all future applicants would know that already.
Yeah, and this is an organisation that's akin to the BBC. You know, where the BBC are paying people like Sarpong £250,000 a year to be director of inclusivity and diversity. Really? All of this public money that is being flushed away just because they want to woke wash and be seen to be politically correct. West Midlands Police, if this is true, congratulations. And it is true.
Oh God,
that is true.
Oh,
West Midlands Police. These officers genuinely are complaining about this stuff. It's a bit of a worry, isn't it? You know, if you're a police officer now, you're going to be saying, you're going to get to the door of a pub at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, where it's all kicking off inside, and say, no, actually, I'd rather not go in. It's a bit scary, actually. There's glasses and beer being thrown around and all sorts of things. And, you know, I might get some of it on my uniform. Anyway, that's true.
That's hilarious. Young people are just not made of the stuff that our ancestors were made of, because that's ridiculous.
Because we've taken competition out of everything, and we want to wrap everybody in cotton wool and hemp and yogurt. Okay. Lincoln City Football Club. Now, look, is it obvious that this is fake? They wouldn't really have banned the Dam Busters tune and air raid sirens.
Please tell me it's fake.
It's true. Lincoln City Football Club, hang your heads in shame. Look, you've had a tradition going on for decades and decades and decades. Yeah. Don't let the woke stop you celebrating patriotism and the fact you've got a connection actually to Lancaster bombers from the Second World War. And I'm not glorifying war, but what I am celebrating is the veterans that actually went into bat for us, frankly. What's next? Walton Centre NHS Trust.
Oh, please tell me that is true.
It's true.
Oh, yes. Honestly, this should make your life as a nurse or doctor far more entertaining, because you know, if you're dealing with some big, hairy guy and you have to ask him whether he's pregnant because the workers have lost their mind.
Mr. Smith, could it possibly be true that you're pregnant? Oh, no, I don't think so.
Are you sure you don't identify as Mrs. Smith, sir? You can tell me.
Yes, okay. So, the Little Britain one, that's true.
True,
it's back on. Colorado School District, Axed Valedictorian Prize. That unfortunately is true.
Oh my God.
Which kind of leaves us with the one that is fake, which is the University of Kent. Again, apologies to the University of Kent. How dare I possibly
I
suggest?
actually believe that.
Well, that's the point of the show.
I
That you
believe
might
that.
believe that they actually have issued or would have issued alarms to female students so that they can emit an alarm if they get too close and personal with a member of the opposite sex. Wow, there you go. Okay,
Wow.
so you didn't get it again. That's 2 weeks on the
I
trot.
know,
that you
because the
haven't
world
got
is
it.
going mad. But, I'm glad we're talking about this because I honestly believe 5 years from now, we will be seen as psychics. We will be predicting the future of the world.
What, the stuff that isn't true will come true.
Exactly, absolutely. It's
indeed.
only a ticking time bomb.
Yeah. So look, hope you've enjoyed it. So that's the second episode. We'll be back for episode 3 very, very soon.
And don't forget to subscribe. I know you've enjoyed watching this. Don't be rude and just leave without subscribing because, that's just not
Not on.
on.
Not on. So subscribe.
Fix up.
See you next time. Thanks.